What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we've got a lot to go over. Before we get started, NATO will need 35 to 50 extra brigades under its new defense plan. So they are yet again putting in writing, NATO will need between 35 and 50 extra brigades to fully realize its new plans to defend against an attack from Russia, a military source told Reuters. The source, speaking on the condition of anonymity, because basically what he's doing is being a traitor, it declined to provide any more detail about the plans, which are secret. A brigade consists of about 3,000 and 7,000 troops, so generating 35 to 50 more such units would present a significant challenge. We're talking about anywhere from, again, 350,000 up, in another sign on the scale of NATO's challenge as it revamps its posture to take the threat of Russia attack more seriously following the 2022 invasion of UKR. It says at a summit in Vilnius last year, NATO leaders agreed on the alliance's first major defense plans in more than 3 decades, and officials have been working on translating the documents into concrete military demands since then. NATO leaders have expected to get an update on the plans in Washington this week at a summit to mark the 75th anniversary at the Transatlantic Security Alliance. At the very same time that this is going down and this is being talked about, we just did a video over on Marfoogle News, which actually talks about how China is doing a current drill directly with Belarus on the border of not only Kaliningrad, but again with Poland. And they are doing some really, really creepy stuff there. As far as that partnership, that is something that is to be expected at this point. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on our show tonight. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Remember, you have a full bibliography over at marfooglenews.com. You can find, of course, this very easily by just going and looking on marfooglenews.com for today's thumbnail. NATO wants 350,000 troops now. Now, once you click on that, you'll find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Before I get started and before I even bring in Dex, I do want to say, if you can, please pray for Stephen, Survival Living's brother. If you guys did not hear, he's having heart issues and he's currently in the hospital. So if you know Survival Living and you watch his channel and know how much work he puts in, again, he's a very good man. His brother, again, is guaranteed just as good. So make sure to go, please pray for him. I'm really, really sad to hear that. And again, not good news today. So if you can, please send your vibes, prayers, whatever you can. And hopefully Survival Living's brother will be okay. Again, his name is Steven, if you want to pray for him. And I'm really sorry to start the show off like that. But again, I think it's really important that a lot of people surround them right now. Apparently, he's having some pretty serious things happening, and I don't know if what I heard is possibly a triple bypass, but I'm not sure yet. So I will find out, and hopefully we'll get a good update. All right, and then let's bring him my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, okay, so let's go into the brigades, right? When you see the title, it doesn't really, you're like, oh, 35 to 50 brigades. Unless you actually know how much a brigade is, that's a lot of troops. What do you think about them adding all of these as part of their plan? I guess, they're going to say, oh, this is normal. Well, right now, look at everything that's adding up. I don't think it's normal.
It's not. And when you look at the numbers, what was it? They had 300,000, I think we talked about, that was on standby, on high alert, ready to roll. It may have been higher than that. It may have been 350,000. It sounds like this is potentially doubling that. And we're now starting to get into numbers that are approaching the 1 million mark. And this, when you start thinking about troop sizes of 700,000, 800,000, getting closer to that million mark, we're talking massive amounts of troop support. You don't just do this. Like you've got to. That's a lot. I mean, you've got to be ready for an all-out conflict if you're going to be looking at 1 million, or even 500,000. But they're north of 600,000 now. By the time they add these brigades that they're requiring to support them against defense for Russia. So yeah, that's huge. It's significant.
Yeah, I was trying to look up. Obviously, there was. Gosh, jeez. So there was a famous battle, and I was trying to look up which one that was. But Russia took 600,000 into. It was either World War I or World War II, where there was a huge battle, and they took 600,000 troops. I mean, that's more than that. In I believe World War I think there was something like 14 million Russian soldiers. So in the grand scheme of things, over years, it's so crazy how many people end up fighting in these massive wars. World War II was the worst war to date, and all of the experts look at a World War III and say, gosh, we're going to lose more than that. To even comprehend that a World War III would lose more numbers than that is just absolutely devastating. I personally think that, everybody's going to get hit in the side of the face with this. Everybody believes right now in the United States, a lot of people are talking about a civil conflict. They're worried about us fighting ourselves right now. But I think that something is going to take a left turn really quick, and all of a sudden, I almost think that we're going to be united here pretty soon under some sort of stupid event, and then all of a sudden we'll stop looking at each other and we'll start looking over there. Because that's usually how Fantastic Freddy's work, and that's usually how they get us involved, and us involved where the public actually wants us to be there. I don't think we would have a World War III without some event that would bring the U.S. in under terms where people want to be there. That's why I think that there's going to be a Harbor 2.0 kind of event. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, I hope that everybody is doing well. I hope everybody is cool in a lot of these states that are getting these crazy heat records. We're having like 80 to 90s all week, and it's been horrific here. It was 95 or 96 earlier today, and I think the high was at 6 o'clock. It was 90 at like 2, and then 96 or 95 at 6 o'clock. Like, that's insane to have the peak at 6 o'clock at night. Anyways, it's not fun for us that don't have good air conditioning and central air conditioning. So let's get back into it. Let's go over to the map. And as far as the extra troops, I think it has something to do with this bigger picture here. Dex, do you want to talk about Cuba foils a plot to sneak arms onto the island from the U.S.? I'm actually happier that they were sneaking them out instead of in, but this is not good as well.
Well, they're sneaking them into Cuba, which is really interesting. So, look, this is, make sure you guys understand, this is Cuba foiling a plot of people in America bringing arms into Cuba, okay? Now, I really sort of question who's doing it. Now, certainly there are plenty, and they want to point the finger at a lot of the people that have left Cuba that want to, overturn the existing government there and have a lot of issues. But one thing they're poking at is that the U.S. is doing nothing about it. Only Cuba has been able to figure it out and saw that it was happening and was able to, I guess, I don't want to say thwart it, but because it sounds like the people may still be in the U.S. that are at fault here. But the U.S. State Department did say it was aware of the allegations, but then they said, look, U.S. law enforcement prosecutes individuals based on U.S. law and does not take direction from a foreign government, which leads me to believe that maybe there's something a little bit more afoot here. Would it be too far-fetched to think that maybe we would be supporting anyone that might want to overthrow or turn up or change up the government down in Cuba, given all the consternation that we have with them and have had with them, and the fact that they've been working with China so closely and bringing in Russian subs and potentially having 100,000 Russian troops come in by way of opening up the floodgates of travelers from Russia into Cuba. I don't know. You tell me.
Three-letter organizations, right? This looks to me like a regime change operation, and I don't know where did I hear that? There was some stat that came out more recently that 70 regime change operations have happened in such a time. It's I want to say since the 40s or something like that, but in general, 70 regime change operations is a huge number in the first place. So I guarantee that at least that many have happened. At least that's what we know from new stats. And think about that. Each time that the U.S. has done an operation that essentially helps with the regime change, right? We saw that event where, what country was that, Dex, that the 20 guys went into the palace, took out the guards, took out the guy, I think they poisoned him or something like that, but they took out the king or the prime minister or somebody, and they, of course, didn't say it was the U.S., but then the one guy that was there had direct connections and was a Florida man. And we made fun of it because it was like, oh, Florida man, right? Followed by every crazy story ever. But it was like, you obviously know that something is up. I can't remember. I feel like it was a South American country, but
I think it was in the Caribbean.
And again, down here in these places, it's like, how strange would it be to see that, right? 20 or 30 guys or however many it needs to take. They say that they have 3 dozen people, 36 people. That sounds about right. What if they were trying to bring the weapons onto the island and then they were setting up an op? They were going to go take out the leaders and regime change. That would make sense because what is going on with Cuba right now? Cuba is actually allowing China and Russia to set up shop there. And we've talked about how they did a talk with Russia and they said, we're going to allow 200,000 Russian tourists into Cuba. And everybody, all of our community is looking at this and going, yeah, they're right, tourists, right? They're not tourists. I think that that's a direct excuse for them to bring in troops. You bring in people plain clothes, and in reality, they're brigades. I mean, they're straight up troops. So I think that they're getting ready for something big. And then, of course, after that, then Russia comes down with all their ships and parks in Havana. And all they talk about is how, now they're really close to Guantanamo Bay. And then they set up the spy shop down there. Something is going on. They're setting up shop. Not to mention all of the other events, like what we just talked about over on news, like China practicing with Belarus. All of these countries that we're against right now, they're all getting ready for a massive World War III. The closer it gets, the harder and harder it's going to be for the people that are, this is just fear. Watch. Every country, it's going to continue step by step to get prepared, and the framework is being built for World War III. This is it. And I don't think it's that far out now. I think it would be a miracle if we got to January of next year without one, but if we do, most of the experts and all of the military are saying by 2027. So even if we get through January and we figure out who's going to be the leader without having our own civil conflict, within a couple of years, you have the framework being built. It is obvious. It's super, super clear. I don't even think it's an argument, but again, people are going to continue to debate it until they're blue in the face, whether everything goes back to normal. I don't see China giving up on being number one. I don't see all this going back into the closet. Like, this isn't all, going to get pushed back under the stairs. This is now out, and all of these partners are putting their written agreements together to back each other up. This is all being prepared for a massive World War III. It's not the end of the world. It's a massive fight. And I hope that we're ready. I hope our youth are ready for it, because 18 to 26-year-olds, whether you're a man or woman, you're most likely going to get drafted, especially with all the new changes. And then Panama is using barbed wire to try to block a major route for U.S.-bound migrants. Now, the Darien Gap, as you guys know, is one of the biggest places that everybody is coming through. Dex, don't you find it's kind of weird that, even this, they're trying to block people, right? So,
yeah, they are, and they're saying that they're suggesting that it may be working in the sense that it's scaring people, because they're thinking that it's all sealed off and they can't get through. But the smugglers have said, "Hey, don't worry, we've got it figured out. We've dug tunnels. We've created pathways where you may have to go through one at a time, but don't worry, everything's still open and we still have ways of getting you through. So keep coming." But yeah, this is the ongoing collision between the Panama government and the cartel that is running the people through this region. And you see, I think in this picture of this barbed wire, there is a dug out tunnel underneath, or a little shimmy point where you're one person at a time can sort of slip under the wire. But that's a lot of barbed wire, and that's exactly the area that we talked about, that large bridge being built.
Well, without troops actually there watching it, what's even the point of barbed wire? You bring some clippers and you have some time, and you get through that thing. I highly doubt that the whole thing's electrified, but even if it is, they have ways around that as well. And it goes for a long while. At the same time, though, by the Darien Gap, there is a huge tank-wide column being built. Over $1 million to build this thing. It looks like professional, like city standards, like if they were building a bridge, say in New York or something. That's the standards that they're building this bridge, or at least that's what it looks like. They're doing rebar supports. They're doing this huge this column in one of the harder places for people to get through. One question I have is, like, what if they are truly done? All of these countries have had to deal with thousands and thousands, millions at this point, of people coming through through Panama and through all of these countries. They must have a lot of bad people coming through their country, and they must be tired of constant just a rotating door of just all of these nasty people coming through their country. You would think that all of them, if they are being paid off or there's some sort of benefit for them, I'm sure that people are pretty sick of it, even if they are getting some benefit to this. And by this, if there's the hypothetical scenario that this is being done on purpose and that there is somebody behind it, then it's really just scary to think about the scale of this. When you do have people investigating down there and showing that they're actually translating the path for all of these different languages. You've got all of the people that are coming through are majority of them are from certain countries that are working directly with our adversaries and that are literally looking forward to our downfall. So I don't think these are all lovely families, just trying to get a better life. Obviously, we all know that. So obviously there's some good people mixed in there, I'm sure, but there's also a huge chunk of bad people, and we're talking about the worst of the worst. The people that would, plan a 2001 event, even though I guess that would have to be a bunch of white guys in suits, but you know what I mean. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If you want to protect yourself against an EMP strike from any of our adversaries or a Carrington level event, then you would definitely want to have one of these on your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, RV, motorhome, or generators, or even your solar generator in the case of the Flex 1500 and the Flex Tactical. And this will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, or motorcycle. This is easy to put in, takes 10 minutes, 3 wires, black to black, red to red, and then, of course, green to ground or a great part of your chassis, and then you're done. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, that helps us out, helps independent media, and you're protecting yourself at the same time as supporting us. So thank you guys. Not only that, you get a $50 off discount, and that stacks on top of any sale that they're running. So make sure to utilize that, especially right now, right after a holiday. Go over there and check it out. All right. And sorry, you guys, it is 94 degrees in here. It's a lot cooler than it was the other last night or Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry. It was Monday, yesterday. Yesterday, it was 99 degrees when I finished the show last night. It was absolutely horrendous. I was straight up dizzy by the time I ended the outro. It is absolutely nuts, and I'm not happy about this weather, to say the least. I know, Dex, you got hot weather there too, but man, this is just horrendous. And then Russia...
all those lights feel good too, right?
Yeah, the hot lights.
Yeah. I mean, you're just baking. Like, turn them off.
By the end, I was going cross-eyed. Dex, let's talk about... So there's two back-to-back, and I thought it was funny that there's back-to-back stories saying one thing or the other. So you go
I
over
know
this one.
NATO doesn't have a clue what it's talking about, and this is rather funny. So guys, pay attention to this story, and then pay attention to the next story. So let's start here. Russia lacks ammunition troops for a big offensive, says NATO official. Basically saying Russia lacks the munitions and the troops to start a major offensive in UKR and would need to secure a significant ammunition supplies from other countries beyond what it already has in order to do so, coming from a senior NATO official. And of course, a lot of this is coming out of the big meeting that's happening right now. So they were talking, they've had side meetings, they've had opportunities to speak with the reporters. Some people are talking on the condition of anonymity. This person may have been one of those. But on the battlefield, the official said Russia has been suffering very high losses as it struggles to exploit small territorial gains and lacks the troops and ammunition to mount a large-scale offensive. All right.
Now,
so that's NATO on one hand.
Now, also NATO... Same time, Russia rebuilt its war machine faster than we expected and is now cranking out artillery shells at a breakneck pace, NATO defense official says. So they have rebuilt its war machine. So they're saying that they're pumping out artillery and weapons and everything faster than they can count. But yet they lack munitions and everything else. Dex, is this not kind of contradictory, to say the least?
Yeah. I mean, look, they said they were producing 400,000 152 millimeter rounds per year before the invasion. Now they're producing 2 million a year. I mean, that's way more than we were making. And I don't remember what the tank story was, but I remember we talked about the tanks. They were pumping out tanks like there was no tomorrow. So yeah, they've got they've invested heavily and cranked up their military machine in the sense of manufacturing and creating both ammunition and equipment.
It sounds pretty stupid to me. I mean, they're literally saying they're moving quite fast. So either they lack munitions and they're unprepared for this, or they have rebuilt their war machine and they're building faster than anybody else. I don't know which one is true, but I'm guessing it goes towards the latter. It's almost like it depends on which person they're talking to at NATO. It's almost like they're looking at this guy and saying, "Oh yeah, what did I tell you last week? Yeah, they lack everything. They don't have anything. Yeah, they've rebuilt the war machine. They're producing more than we've ever seen before. We need money from you. We got enough from you. Oh, don't worry about them. Thanks for the money. That money went really well. Now they're losing. They're totally winning. Yes, no, they've all died. Nope, they are born at a rate we've never seen before. There's more Russian baby soldiers than we've ever seen. Yes, yep. In fact, not only are they losing, the Ghost of Kiev has basically torn apart their entire country. The Ghost of Kiev is fake. Don't worry about that. Yes, and we need more money. I think I just summed up the entire NATO summit. I don't know, though. I don't know. Dex, go ahead.
I think they need a Karine Jean-Pierre, right?
Oh, man. You know, I have thought that every one of the people that do that job is bad. I don't know if I've ever liked one of those people that does the what is that called? The press secretary?
Yeah, it's the press secretary.
Can I ask you guys, have you ever liked a press secretary? Let's go say hi to some people in the chat. Have you ever liked a press secretary? It doesn't matter what administration over the last 20 years. Has there been a press secretary you liked? And I'm thinking I actually might have liked one of them. It might have even been a woman a while back. I thought she was funny. Like maybe it was Huckabee's daughter. Maybe that one was, because she said she just like clowned on reporters a couple times. I did like watching Jen. No, Leslie Lindsay. M. St. G, hey, Susie Q, Sarah, what is happening? Sarah Huckabee. Kaylee McCaney. Okay, I did like her somewhat actually too. It's crazy how both it's switched off every time administrations, and it's just funny to see how the different sides picks of press secretaries have acted.
How about Dana Perino? Remember her?
Was she the red? No, it was
under Bush. She's on I think she's on Fox now as a permanent figure, but
oh, I remember her, and she's
blonde, pretty face.
I remember her a couple times just getting flustered by something, and then she have a scandal where she blurted out something she wasn't supposed to. I think all of them have that, but Shastina, Jen is the redhead. Yeah, that's not. I didn't. Like I said, I haven't liked any of them really, except for maybe the McCaney, the one that's now on Fox, and then Huckabee. She was just a savage. She was just didn't take crap. She's kind of like her. I think she's more kind of savage than her dad is, like this friendly, nice guitar playing guy, and she's just like, I'll kick your butt. None of them. I'll circle back next exit. Yeah, you'd have to look. There's been a lot, and it was like during T-Man, it seemed like there was a lot of them. This current one, I don't know what it is. I won't say anything bad about her personally, but the way that she covers the stuff, the way that she spins things, I have to watch all these releases, and I shouldn't say I have to. I do watch all of them, so you guys know that we try to cover all of those things. If they say something crazy, we know as fast as we can. But the way that she is, especially when she was new, but she's gotten better, I guess. I just could not do that. I could not say I like that person. She talks like she's always lying. Well, that's that job. I don't think anybody here could do that job without lying. That's the job. It's in the title. It's literally like press liar secretary. It's secretly in there. Like if you have a magnifying glass, they have to write it really tiny. Press liar secretary. It's just super, super small. JJ Boone. Well, that's not a good reason to like somebody. I liked her too, yeah. And, of course, we've got NATO backs effort to save internet by diverting to space in event of subsea attacks. These are hints. People should realize that these are hints of what's to come. As far as they are talking about the underwater sea cables over the last few years, and now you've had underwater sea cables, especially like the one in Taiwan recently, that was accidentally cut by a commercial fishing vessel of China's. And you see these things, well, they're always under constant threat. In fact, our military and Navy is constantly checking up on them. You've got ships that always go check up on these cables. They've got patrols. And they're worried about submarines or even specific drones that would go down and snip these. They even worry about some of our adversaries' navies because they have these particular drones that actually drop down out of the bottom and they can go and cut them. If they do cut them, we lose our hard line between essentially Europe and the United States. Well, now NATO has been ramping up efforts to protect cables over the course of the past several months. Last year, it also established a center to coordinate the best practices to protecting undersea infrastructure in the wake of the September 22 explosion that destroyed Nord Stream 2, which is so absurd because most of you probably heard by now. Most people don't believe that was exactly how it went down, as far as, oh, it was an attack and Russia did it themselves, whatever else. Well, yeah, I would think that if, say, country A cuts country B's pipeline and blows it up, the country B is probably going to look at your underwater stuff and go, we're going to attack back. So, yeah, it's probably a threat. But again, the official story, nobody believes. This latest research effort, which documents show is expected to formally launch with the symposium at Cornell University in New York later this month, is focused on developing methods to detect disturbances on cables, then automating bids to access satellite bandwidth and potentially other subsea cables to divert data. Before researchers creating a working operational systems, they will spend 2 years testing prototypes and navigating regulations, according to the project leaders in documents seen by Bloomberg. My question is if you did want to do this, and if you knew that now they are actually putting their feet to the pavement on fixing this problem if they ever cut the subsea cable, and they say within 2 years they're going to have a working prototype and they're going to try to have it fixed, what would you do as an adversary that knows that that's a really important part? If you're going to go to war with these two continents there, you are probably going to want to cut it before they have a backup. Dex, did you think about that? And they're talking about space. We know that we've covered a lot of weird stories like laser transmitting data and satellites that basically do mirrors and launch data around the world in mere seconds, and even weird things that have microwave rays used for power and all sorts of things that they've been working on. But what do you think about them doing this system to back up the internet?
Well, I wonder what kind of tech they're looking at. I mean, could they be looking at another secondary or even tertiary constellation like Elon has, or are they thinking much more wider bandwidth and stronger satellites and uplinks? Because I don't know. I don't know what the point is to get a large amount of data from one land mass to another land mass. I don't know that that it's the same thing as if it was cut off just to say, hey, we'll put everybody up on a Starlink and then they can backhaul through Starlink's system. But I don't know that would handle a lot of the amount of bandwidth that's going across some of these countries. But yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that, they probably need to have a backup for, because it is a threat. And obviously if they're not there yet, then it looks like they're vulnerable now. And if somebody's going to do something to them, they should do it now. But even if they did it today, there's time to fix it. I think when it happens, it's going to be one of those things that happens right when conflict starts. I think when conflict kicks off at a great level, you'll probably see a lot of these lines cut, because that type of break in communication is an opportunistic event for the person that's doing it.
And we covered this before, back when the link between Estonia and Sweden. It says the risks range from cables inadvertently severed by anchors dragging along the seafloor to deliberate sabotage. The anchors is more like what happened with the two of the smaller islands with Taiwan. The cable was cut by that, right? Or what was purposeful, which is deliberate sabotage, including what Sweden said was purposeful damage in October to the Baltic subsea cable linking Estonia and Sweden. And I also believe there was something near Norway. They said, with enough time and banging our heads against the wall, we are confident we can do it. So that they don't really even exactly know. And yet, if they can, said Gregory Falco, a space systems engineer at Cornell University. It's crazy that they're taking this task and they're, having some of the smartest people in the world, try to put it together. But it's crazy we don't have a system like that already, considering where our technology is. Either way, think about this. Like you said, there's not enough for Starlink, right? Well, what happens if this happens and they do have some sort of backup? It's going to be prioritized, and none of us will have the internet. At the very least, I bet not even the whole government will have internet. It will be essentially prioritized to whoever, the very, very top people will have it. Top people in charge will have it. Top military brass, this and that. But imagine in that world. So they're all connected, but we will not be. That's why it's good to have radios, and if you want to go down the strenuous path, get your ham license. You can do that as well. But think about it. If we do lose our internet completely, it's going to be a rough time, especially if you're somewhat farther away from your family and everything else. People don't know how a world would work without the internet. No landlines, no nothing. If we don't have cell phones and internet, if it goes down, it's not like they're going to give it back anytime soon. So very, very crazy. That's our communications. And then North Korean soldiers head to Russia for training. I mean, this should be really clear by now what's going on. North Korean military trainers led by the head of the respected military academy in Pyongyang have embarked on a trip to Russia. So just take that physically, what is happening. You've got North Korean soldiers traveling to Russia. According to Reuters, the visit by the delegation of the North Korean military trainers to Russia marks the first military exchange between Moscow and Pyongyang since a sweeping military treaty was signed last month. So this is just the first of it. These are military trainers. Next, you're going to see North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine. Again, they're getting ready. All of these treaties signed. Now you're going to start seeing the first actions, the trainers being sent. They're going to send their specialists back and forth. They're going to send gear. They're going to send all this stuff. And look at how all of a sudden it expands. All of the treaties that were just signed in the last year, all of a sudden now you're going to have all of these countries directly working together that once before maybe they had each other back, verbally, but now they physically are sending military throughout all of their countries. They signed a very similar thing with Iran. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I mean, look at the timing of all of this. We have China in Belarus. We have North Korea in Russia. And we have NATO meeting in D.C. with our current prez. Like this couldn't be clearer, people, what is happening and what they're all getting prepared for. And to see two Asian countries moving in, into Europe and Russia, half of it's Europe, and for most people consider it that, into that area. I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah, everybody pay attention. It's only going to get crazier. I predict that you're very soon going to see North Korean soldiers. There's going to be stories about North Korean soldiers facing off directly with Ukrainian soldiers. And thank you, Stephen McMahon. I appreciate the super chat. It says, off to work. Love you all. Stay salty. Hey, thank you, and thank you. Over on D-Live, thank you, Poco Loco. Thank you, Kimbria, Laura Griffith, Captain Morgan. Thank you for the lemons. Thank you, TLD Driver. I appreciate that. TL Driver, thank you. Poco Loco, again, thank you, and thank you. Kimbria and then Chance, thank you for holding it down over there, as always. Thank you, Jammer. We missed you the other day. I know you were busy and had your stuff going on, so thank you for being here as well, Jammer. And then make sure to thank the mods by going over to marfuglenews.com/friends. Again, you can find that on our website on the Friends tab. Lots of great people over there. And then Russian spy service accuses U.S. of plotting regime change in Georgia. Funny enough, this is along the same time that Cuba is now catching as far as 36 people that are trying to get arms and weapons into Cuba. And what looks like, all of us are looking at it and going, that looks like a regime change type of move, like a CIA operation. Like there's 32 guys that go into the palace, take out the guards, take out the leader. All of a sudden you've got a new leader in Cuba. Same thing, now they're talking about Georgia. And this is pretty interesting because now Georgia has the two kind of spots. Dex, it's not loading, but Georgia we've talked about recently because there's a split in Georgia as far as what is going on there.
Yeah, and particularly what is interesting here is there's a big event, a selection process, as we have coming up in November. But there's one of those happening in Georgia on the 26th of October. So that's coming up. And the FSB is coming out and saying, hey, the U.S. is trying to overthrow the government here. They're trying to invoke a regime change. Now, of course, the U.S. came out and said, nope, it's absolutely false. We're not doing anything. Now, it's easy for someone to point the finger at the U.S. because we've had our hands in many regime changes over the years. As you said earlier in the show, Adam, the number was pretty staggering as far as how many times people have sort of pointed the finger at the U.S. for instigating or in somehow being involved in some sort of regime change with different countries over the years. So no one's going to be shocked by that statement. But the question really is it happening? Now, we've seen Georgia going back and forth a little bit on whether or not it was going to be NATO aligned or Russian aligned. And that's the big question. That's what's happening right now. Everybody has got to pick a partner. There's a game of dodgeball getting to kick off, and you've got to go to one side or the other. And which one are you going to be on? That there is no middle ground at this point. I mean, you got Modi from India up there bear hugging, Putin like there's no tomorrow, and getting the big award from him. We just talked about last night. You've got, the BRICS alliance expanding crazily, and everyone is picking sides. And now the question is, which way is Georgia going to go?
And by the way, U.S. has had something to do with Cuba regime changes before. I wonder if there's a Georgia in here. UKR, there's audio tapes of what's her face saying, oh yeah, well, we're basically gonna pick who's in charge of UKR. If you have heard that clip, then it says it all. I mean, it's like crazy. Costa Rica, Albania, Syria, these are all places that had CIA or U.S. assistance. Egypt, Guatemala, Iran. The 1953 Iranian coup d'etat, which was, I forget which place before the 70s was like a totally different place. Was that Iran? Was Iran before the 76 or 73 or whatever? I just saw a video that shows women in Iran, I think it's Iran, and they were dressed in normal clothes and everything else, and then regime...
I believe you're right.
Yeah, and... women weren't in full-on gear. They were dressed normal in dresses, and it shows what looks like any place in 1973 or 1972 or whatever. But yeah, look at all these places. This is the U.S. And other countries have done this as well, but nobody beats the U.S. in this. Look at this, another Cuba. There's so many different years, and it goes by year. Every year we're doing one country or another with regime change. Cambodia, Chile, Bolivia, Ethiopia, Angola, East Timor, Argentina, Afghanistan. What do they say about that? Oh yeah, lots of stuff there. The Sour Revolution. Poland, I remember I covered that one. I actually did that one in high school. Grenada, Panama, Soviet Union. I mean, they've had tons of regime change operations. It's crazy how many they've had, and we don't even know all of the ones that they've had because they've kept half of them top secret or more than half. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Adam, the other way that some people might phrase this is regime changes, but it's moving away from either communist or dictatorial rule to democratic style, more freedom style of government. And that's typically, and that goes hand in hand with being having favor with the U.S. So you can look at this many different ways. Some people could say, well, they're liberations. They're creating better opportunities for those countries. Of course, they're also putting in people in those countries that are going to align themselves with the U.S. and make sure that they're, hooked up to the petrodollar, so to speak, right? Or whatever important components there are. But, it just depends on how you look at it. And
they've done
to
the
the people
opposite.
that are in that country, it may not feel that way to them. They may be like, yeah, you're just coming in here meddling with our country. Get out. But on the outside looking in, it's like, oh, we're trying to support freedom across the globe and get rid of all this, non-freedom speak that's out there, whether it be from different ideologies or dictatorial regimes.
Wasn't it last year we covered that one of the big coups d'etats that happened, they helped put somebody in power that was actually more of a dictator than it was like they put somebody in charge that they could control, but it wasn't better for the people in that case. In that case, it was like they would have had this, place that every so many years they would pick their prime minister or president. But instead, the U.S. intervened and said, nope, we can control this guy and put somebody in. I'm sure that's happened too, where it's a reverse, where we're not actually helping them build a democracy. We're placing a dictator.
Certainly. And it depends on who's going to give favor to our country and who's going to align to what we want out of them, which tends to be, in the past, been oil. Or other expensive natural resources that we may want to, get our hands on.
People get mad about this sometimes, or they say it's like unpatriotic to talk about this kind of stuff. I've had those comments, and I'm like, first of all, the system since the Constitution was set up in ways so there was checks and balances. And when these checks and balances have gone out of play, that's where bad things have happened. In fact, the agencies that don't have those checks and balances, the agencies that are above the law, the agencies that do these things, yes, in a lot of ways, they have been there to kind of keep us on the tracks or to keep us in power, which if you live in the U.S., then guaranteed you most likely don't want the U.S. to fall to somebody else, right? So there's things they do, there's collateral damage that happens, there's horrible events they do, but they say they're doing it for the future, to protect us. But we all know that there's horrible events that the U.S. and a lot of other countries have done. Every president has been a part of things, including T-Man and every other one, that has been a part of something or signed off on something where you have an agent from one of these letter agencies going and taking out somebody who, to any of us, would be an innocent person. If that person knows the wrong information or saw the wrong thing, then that person will get taken off this earth. That's crazy to me, that you don't have to do anything wrong. You could just be at the wrong place, wrong time. And that saying couldn't be any truer as far as people that have been taken out by the government. And that's all accepted. Like, we accept that we're lied to every day. The fundamental, like the foundation of our country and every other country in the world, all of these presidents, every prime minister, they lie and they take people's lives. They do all of the things that we're not supposed to do and then put people in prison for doing those things. And we all accept it because, it's because they're doing it for the best of us, or for the they're doing it for good, right? Do you guys get what I'm saying? But it's really crazy how humans even work. The human nature in all of it. All of the leaders around the world, doesn't matter what language they're speaking, they've done absolutely horrid things. And you can be proud to be from a country and not be proud of how they have ran it. That's the difference. I'm proud to be American, and I am absolutely proud of my country. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of everybody that is in this country. I'm not proud of the times it's veered off course and done horrible things throughout history. And that's why there was checks and balances put in place to try to correct that, to try to stable the boat, to try to uncapsize this sinking vessel. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Anthony, man, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. And thank you for supporting Independent. Everybody, thank you. Anthony, appreciate that. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace Medical. This is actually a really, really great service. You guys know, we actually picked this up after the huge hack that happened to all of the pharmacies. It was almost eight or 9 days that over 30,000 pharmacies were having issues. A lot of people couldn't get the prescriptions. A lot of people were told that they couldn't fill them because of issues. again, it woke up a lot of people, and a lot of people asked, like, hey, what do I do if I can't go to a pharmacy? What happens if the pharmacies are shut down, or if something happens, the power's out, and they're not opening the pharmacies, or the pharmacies get looted and I can't get anything? Well, you should have a backup supply, especially stuff like antibiotics. If you have something like a Jace case, you're going to have extra on the side antibiotics that you can have for emergency purposes. You'll have to go to the website for more information, but it's very easy. It's a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can get yourself something like a Jace case, which is basically a kit of different life-saving medicines, which aren't just antibiotics. You can actually add stuff like albuterol and others, but you can also get your actual pharmacy, your prescription, and you can get up to a year's supply of it. That's called Jace Daily, so ask about that as well. That means you're going to have, at first, a year sent to you, and then by the month, and you can rotate it in, so you'll always have a year of your regular prescription. Now, not all prescriptions work. Some of them need to be refrigerated, or they expire in a shorter time, but there's a lot of them that do. So go check it out, especially if you're a caregiver for somebody in your family. This is a really great thing to do. It's a very smart thing to do, even for just regular disasters. If there's a Hurricane Katrina and you're trapped somewhere, if you have a week or 2 weeks or a year of prescriptions, then that's a really awesome thing. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF to save and to help our channel at the same time. And then Russian official says U.S. left arms treaty to build weapons to menace China. Dex, those are some big words there.
They certainly are, and they're just poking, but at the same time, this is poking and pitting the U.S. against China, and I think it's obvious because when you look at what the U.S. is doing militarily, a lot of the advanced technology we're building is squarely centered around the Pacific. It's not like we're really worried much about Europe. We just throw all of our old equipment over there to fight Putin's old equipment, with the exception of, say, hypersonics and anything in space. That's where it goes both ways, in my opinion. But when you think about like the advancements we're doing in nuclear and the concerns that we have, everything that comes out of our military right now, conversationally, is always about China's advancement in tech, China's advancement in nukes, China's advancement in warplanes. You don't necessarily hear that much about it from Russia. But the Russian deputy foreign minister, Sergei Ryabkov, said on Monday that the decision for the U.S. to withdraw from the Soviet-era arms control treaty was made so that Washington could begin to build weapons to intimidate China. So specifically, it wasn't about, like, let's just build up our arms against Russia. It was, let's build up specific new weapons that we're going to need against China. So that's the main thing. He said Americans need to withdraw from the treaty in order to create such systems to intimidate the People's Republic of China, Ryabkov said. That's his exact quote, for those of you that want to know. And in no coincidence that we have recently had sharply intensified discussions about when and where the Americans might begin to deploy their medium-range weapons in the Asia-Pacific region, well, in Europe as well, but above all in Asia-Pacific regions. That's the quote. So, I don't necessarily, in my mind, think that he may be wrong. I don't know if that's why we pulled out of the treaty, but I certainly know that we have invested heavily militarily with advanced technology to go head-to-head with China. And it's probably because China is the bigger threat, technologically speaking. I mean, they're pumping out more aircraft carriers. How many aircraft carriers does Russia have? One. They only have one, and they can't even put a fleet around it. They had to put everything in the kitchen sink on it to try to protect it. But China's rolling on their third one, fourth one's under construction. Advanced fighter jets coming out, stealth jets, drones with jet engines that can go supersonic, which are even faster than our drones, coming out of China. All of that, we don't hear that coming out of Russia. So yeah, I tend to agree. We're certainly aligning ourselves to, from a defense innovation standpoint, how do we, beat China?
And I think a lot of Americans, they're not worried about China. They think that everything is made poorly, that everything's going to fall apart. That's not the new China. That's not, at least they prioritize the things. They prioritize their weapons. They prioritize their military. Yes, they can make knockoffs. They've make money doing it. They're doing it for money. That is one of the main things they've done it for. But they have the technology and the ability to manufacture almost anything. And yes, that is an awesome photo. And this is actually a real life photo sent back from the future of the war with Russia. That is correct. There's an eagle nearby. There's an eagle nearby. There's an eagle nearby. If you get it, you get it. And Japan must strengthen NATO ties to safeguard global peace, Prime Minister says. So this comment isn't an accident. Nothing that they say, prime ministers and all of this. This is thought out. This is after all of these different meetings. Dex, who did we just cover? Japan just met with somebody. Japan and
they just
Philippines.
signed that deal with the Philippines.
That's right. Yesterday, we covered that Japan actually partnered up with the Philippines and with, is that Marcos Ferdinand Jr.? Is that right? I think that's the leader.
Yeah, that's correct.
I get the Philippines and some other place confused. But either way, so they just signed a treaty as well. So you have all of our adversaries signing their treaties saying, hey, if they mess with you, we'll back you up, and vice versa. Now you have Japan doing the same thing with Philippines. So if there is an escalation, now Japan's going to jump in? Like, that's pretty crazy considering they've been a self-defense country for a very long time. Now they're saying that they need to strengthen the NATO ties. They need to essentially be that Asian part of the Asian NATO, that they need to get up in it with us. Very surprising considering, look at how far we've come since World War II. And, of course, Russia's deepening military cooperation with North Korea has underlined the need for Japan to forge closer ties with NATO as regional security threats become increasingly intertwined. In written remarks ahead of his attendance at a NATO summit in Washington, D.C. this week, Kishida also signaled concern over Beijing's alleged roles in aiding Moscow's 2-year-old war in Ukraine, although he did not name China. Which is kind of funny that somebody's been aiding him, but you guys know who. Like, is he too scared to say it? The securities of Euro-Atlantic and Indo-Pacific are inseparable, and Russia's aggression against Ukraine and its deepened military cooperation with North Korea are strong reminders of that. Japan is determined to strengthen its cooperation with NATO and its partners. Remember, Japan also went from being at the bottom of the list for military budgets all the way up to the top. They actually now, I think they're number 5 or 6 or something in the world. They immediately turned around. I mean, it's crazy how they found the budget just to be like, oh yeah, now we have a completely different budget and it's going to be skyrocketing high. And it's all centered around military. That was when they did this big change, and guess what? When that happened right after the former prime minister ended up getting taken out with a homemade shoddy. Magically, his party, the person that was taken out, and his party that were supporting this move towards militarizing, magically after he perished, all of a sudden it gained huge support from everybody. Everybody's like, oh yeah, we should do this. So it's just crazy. You know that there's regime changes going on. There's 3-letter ops going on all the time. And to what they paint us, the picture, even if you have them, here's an example. So even if somebody takes somebody out and does it in a way that make it look like an accident, they never catch the guy. Somebody does that enough, there's going to be a pattern that forms, and eventually they'll get caught. Right? They could do 20 things where, say there's a CIA agent that does 20, taking people out. And he makes every one of them look like the brakes are cut or something. Well, after a while, there's going to be a pattern built. And you're going to say, oh, we found out who did it. And it's because eventually there was mistakes, right? Well, I feel like that's what's going on right now with all of these events. All of these operations that they, of course, cover up, and they've got media to cover up, they've got governments to cover up, and they just deny it, whatever else. Of course, they paint it, they say whatever it is in media, but most people go, that doesn't look right, or that just looks odd. Eventually, you start getting the pattern. If you follow it long enough, which 99.9% of people don't, then you start seeing what's really happening. You don't need a crystal ball. You just have to pay really close attention and have common sense. If you're the kind of person that watches true crime shows and figures it out before the end of the show, then most likely it's because you're paying attention and you're watching everything. That's what basically the Watchmen are. That's what people like all of this community are. We're watching every single piece to the puzzle, and it starts coming together without even trying, because they're leaving breadcrumbs for us to see all the time. Do you guys agree with that statement? Let me know in the comments down below or pop in the chat. Anthony, man, thank you so much. And Faith Parent, thank you. Kara Fuse, thank you. Jen with 2 N's. Neil Nelson, Kelly Josie, thank you. Neil Nelson, Jared West, Jerry Shirts 99, Lisa Douglas. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're healthy and happy today. Mitch Mouth, Redonk, Ray Day, Carlton Sutton, Meat Puppet 007, Bunny Haw, and Joanne Breeze. Hopefully you guys are all having a wonderful, wonderful day. And then Dex, Iran's president-elect reaffirms policy towards Israel.
Hey, real quick. Lisa Douglas came in and said that her brother had passed in a car accident today, so she's not doing very good. So prayers should go out to her. Just wanted to.
Oh my gosh!
It came into chat.
Randomly shouted her out just for memory. That's insane.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Lisa, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Lisa Douglas, we're praying for you, and gosh. And just a reminder, if you didn't already hear, if you can send prayers to Survival Living's brother, Stephen. He's having, I think he's having heart surgery. I didn't get the full story, but it sounded like he may be getting a triple bypass. I mean, that's serious. So if you can send prayers and your positive vibes, thoughts, whatever you feel comfortable with towards Stephen, I know that the family would appreciate it. I'm sure that they are extremely worried right now. We've had all sorts of stuff with our my wife's grandma. She's just been going through hell. She had to have her pacemaker turned off to get an MRI because they can't figure out why she can't talk. I told you guys about that the other day. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on with her and the recent dementia and no voice and all that. But you guys know. And then Iran's president-elect reaffirms policy towards Israel. Dex, do you want to go over that one?
Yeah. So here's a new name for you guys. Try to remember it because it'll be coming up quite a bit in the future, but it's Masoud Pezeshkian. And I hope I'm pronouncing that the best of my abilities. He is the new president-elect. He is called a reformist. But I think a lot of people say it's more of a token reformist. And for those of you that don't know, that was a group of people in that country that were emphasized on the importance of parliament and elected institutions and free press and civil society and rule of law and trying to have reconciliation with the West and becoming more reforming, Iran back or to a different way than it is. So he was put in, and that was what they chose according to the information they put out. But I don't know that he's really that strong of a reformist, and we'll have to see. He ran on that. He said he was, but most people say it's not. Don't expect much from him. And as it relates, he quickly wanted to reiterate that the stance on the country as it relates to Israel is not changing at all. He came out and said that the movements across, the resistance movements, as he called them, across the region will not allow Israel's criminal policies towards Palestinians to continue. He said their republic has always supported the resistance of people in the region against the illegitimate regime there, as he called it. So just keep that in mind. Nothing as it relates to the funding sounding like of those groups throughout the different regions that are against Israel. Nothing is going to change there. Nothing's going to change as far as the supporting of them, of backing them, or as far as saying, hey, we're all together and we're against Israel. So keep that in mind. So, but that's the new guy.
Yeah, the Shiite and Sunni. And private jets are taking over a small town in Idaho airport for the annual summer camp for billionaires. You guys probably know about this because, of course, we have covered it almost every year. The annual cacophony over Sun Valley, Idaho has officially begun as billionaires and business moguls descend to Cooped, the small town population of less than 2,000, which that is tiny. Okay, Orcas Island, where I lived for a little bit, had 5,000 people at the time and had 5 cops total. So I can only imagine. Like, this is a town of probably 1 or 2 police. So if you were to pay off or bribe anybody, it would be like a dude. Okay, if you wanted to do some weird, super weird, freaky deaky, ow, worshiping stuff, then this would be the place. Every year for more than 4 days, and again, this is not to be confused with the Grove, but again, they say every year for more than 4 decades, just after 4th of July holiday, the sleepy ski town has hosted the richest and most powerful people in the world. They show up to discuss the hot topics of the day. Sun Valley is where Jeff Bezos agreed to buy the Washington Post, and seeds of an ABC-Disney merger were planted, for example. And they probably did it in some sort of hot tub with cigars. And who knows what else. Stuff that we can't say on television, if you know what I mean. Weird stuff. This year at the, quote, summer camp for billionaires, the Gaza Strip war, the 2024 Pick the Prez Day, and artificial intelligence are surely on the agenda, along with rounds of golf and guided hikes. Do you see why, like, when we have our presidential debate, it got passionate, it got up there. But when it really got heated is when they were debating about golf. Don't talk about my handicap, okay? Dex, go ahead.
Did you hear T-Man said today in a speech he would give him 10 points and at a game of golf and would give $1 million to charity if he lost? He threw it out there today. He's like, he says, "I'll play him. Come play me. I give him 10 points."
Did he say he would carry his own bag? That is
I don't think it matters at their age. You don't need to carry bags.
Yeah,
the whole point is to ride around on a cart.
Yeah, but Joe said he put him on the spot. He says, "But can you carry your own golf bag?" Okay.
Yeah, I would say, can you walk up the stairs?
I want to see Joe carry his golf bag. Watch, there's like one club, and it's made of a balloon. Tuesday morning, the airport experienced heavy traffic hailing from Tony locations like Aspen, Colorado, and Nantucket, Massachusetts, before the conference kickoff. According to the aircraft tracking website FlightAware, over 165 private planes are scheduled to fly in throughout the day. One thing I wish, though, is, I know that I forget the channel name. Dang it. What's their face from We Are Truth, I think? But they went, this one Luke from whatever channel, I can't remember, I think it's We Are Truth, went and actually got all of the people at the other meeting, the Bilderberg. I think it was the Bilderberg. And he went to the airport. This is before they changed security. They changed the way they did it. He went to the Bilderberg meeting airport that everybody was coming in, because before they were taking private jets, but they were going through a main airport. So all of them had to walk through this airport. Well, he sat there and he basically got every creepy super elite walking by and was like, "This is this guy's name. This is that guy." The next year they kicked up security so much They didn't tell people where they were landing. They did all this extra stuff. They took cars from this and shuttles to that, and they made sure that absolutely no one would be able to see them going in. It begs your question, like, these people are so rich, they don't even want to see you. Understand that the super rich don't want to even interact with you. It's not like they don't want, it's not like they hate you. They despise you. They do not want to be within 100 meters of you. They do not want to sit on a seat you've sat on without having their assistants sterilize it. Okay, these people just absolutely do not, and I speak for 99.9% of them. 1% of them, I guess, maybe cool. I don't know. But most of these people, when they get to that amount, there's no way. I don't think you could get rich. I think if I got that rich, something would change. Like, I think something just happens when you are that rich. I don't understand how these people's brains work. But I have been around a couple of them. I have been downtown. I saw Jeff Bezos, and I'm telling you, that guy is just on a whole nother level. I think all these people, they walk around with their security. They don't want to be around people. They don't like us. They would rather not share the planet with us, in my opinion. Do you guys agree? Disagree? Let me know. Southwestern Institute of Physics in Chengdu. Dex, what the heck is going on with this?
Well, the artificial sun. China has made something new, getting closer to the path of fusion with their artificial sun. They have basically, I guess, created a magnetic field, or generated, I should say, a magnetic field with their artificial sun. So I don't know what it means necessarily for the future of fusion. I'm sure some physicist out there understands it really well and says, oh, this is just awesome. But at the same time, I tend to wonder, like, okay, what are we doing with artificial suns? I mean, this thing is so powerful, so strong. It is literally creating the energy, the same energy that the sun produces, which is, and I can't even fathom how hot or how much strength that is. It's a lot. But the huge milestone with the research was the magnetic field is what actually contains the superheated fusion generating plasma. So this artificial sun is getting closer to the point where they're going to have, I guess, another source of energy, or maybe there's another reason we need an artificial sun. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it has something to do with the magnetic field. Like, are they going to have to, are they preparing for some sort of event where they have to make one? I don't know. I feel like there's something weird here. Otherwise, why are they doing it? What is the end goal? I guess I would love to see what they're saying. Other than scientific research, what is it actually for, and what things can come out of it? What inventions can come out of it? If it was perfected and shrank down, or what is the actual plan for this? When we hear artificial sun, we think, well, what's happening to our sun, right? But it's a different kind of thing. It's creating basically a tiny sun, a version of the sun, so powerful. Why do we need it? I wonder.
And does this thing like run off a machine? Like, I know it does at the moment, but is the end game that literally there's going to be a sun, maybe in a much smaller format, that's just sitting there, that's got its own magnetic properties like our large sun does? Is this like going to be creating a mini star that's just going to sit and run by itself and produce just tons of energy? Or is there like a light switch they can just turn this thing on and off? I don't know.
Think about this.
It's kind of crazy.
What if they were able to take it and tow it somewhere and put it outside of a planet that doesn't have sun or something? What if they put it next to a planet that doesn't have the Goldilocks effect or whatever? What if they're able to take it and put it on the dark side of the moon? China's also on the dark side of the moon. What if they put it on the dark side of the moon and create an entire place up there or something? I don't know.
Or put it in, it sounds like it's rather small. I don't know how it scales up to make something large, but even if you put it inside a dome and all of a sudden it's creating an atmosphere and heat and and whatnot in I say a small. I don't mean a small dome like like a house size. I'm talking like
City.
a small city-sized dome on the moon or on Mars, and then you've got this artificial sun in the corner creating an atmosphere in there, and maybe it rotates around the circle and it brings light from one end of the room to the other, or one end of the dome to the other. I don't know.
Maybe they're going to put it on a flat, level place, and it's going to spin around in the sky like this. See, it's going to be flat, and then it's going to go like this. I think I figured it out. You guys were right the whole time. Make sure to go check out Patriot Supply if you don't have extra food and of course, water. Make sure to stock up. It doesn't have to be the end of the world for you to be stocked up. Again, disasters happen all the time. Most people that were prepared for CV and for other events, they were just going off of their regular preps, and they got through even just regular tough times with their preps. This is freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. It is a huge discount. Not only do you get a giant discount from us, it's one of the most affordable ways to get freeze-dried food in bulk. Now, these meals, all you have to do is essentially open up the Mylar bags and then, of course, add water or cook in sauce, and then you've brought back almost all of the original flavor. You could do this 10 years from now or 20 years from now. That's the cool part. And if you can imagine where food prices will be in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and then imagine the price of freeze-dried food in 10, 20 years. That's why people look at it as almost an investment, because if they were to buy it today compared to if they were to buy this in 2 years from now, pretty much everybody knows that within the next 10 years, things are going to get bad, regardless if we have World War III this year or next year or whatever. There's going to be harsh times coming up in the future. In fact, if you believe what they are saying to us, within 20 years, they're going to run low on resources and this and that. Well, if you believe any of the sides, then there's probably going to be bad events happening in the future. So it's a good thing to have extra food. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get, of course, a 3-month kit at a giant discount, but there's always smaller discounts on smaller packages as well, like the 72-hour kit. You can always go for a month. You can go for a week. There's all sorts of great kits, and these are good for any disaster. And again, we always hope that nothing will ever happen, but Murphy's Law, it will. marfooglenews.com/prep. And then if you haven't seen the video we just put out, let's briefly talk about that. So Dex, as far as China's army is now in Belarus, and this drill that they are doing in Belarus, I said, it seems to me like China's in charge. They're not in Russia training with Belarus like they're, under the command of Russia. They are directly in Belarus working with Belarus. When we think of Belarus, we always think of Lukashenko being, Putin's minion. But Putin's just a minion of Xi Jinping. So really, Lukashenko and Putin are Xi Jinping's minions. And now China's army is in Belarus. What do you think about the drill?
I mean, I don't think China went there and said, "Oh, Lukashenko, we need you. Can you teach us to be better?" I'm sure it was the other way around. But look on the map. It's right there. It's literally the town on the border there of Poland. It is right smack dab in the face of Poland. It's the closest. It's the town is called I totally forgot the name. Was it Brest or Brest? Brest, I guess, is the name of it.
You forgot that?
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah. I couldn't think that it was really going to be called that, but that's what it's called. Anyway, it's the town literally on the border of Poland. Right now, as NATO is meeting to discuss what are they going to do with on the pending war with Russia. And you've got China bringing troops in and plopping them right on the border town and saying, we're doing drills.
Now, is that a real fact? Is that the largest milk producer? No. Because, I mean, there's a lot of farmland over there. It probably means a lot of cows.
Comment of the day, though.
Yeah, Joni Yosef, I think that was. That was a good one. That was a good dad joke. All right, and then Kara Fuse, thank you. Again, Lisa Douglas, I'm so sorry to hear about that. And I there's not much anybody can really say other than we're praying for you. And then Stephen, hopefully, I don't know if you're awake. I hope you do better. And again, if you guys want to check out that video, make sure to click here. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Join us tomorrow for tomorrow's show. And of course, if you want to share that video out, it's a short shareable clip. Click right here. Join us for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.